Chapter 19 of Genesis. And there came two angels to Sodom, even, and Lot sat at the gate of Sodom. And Lot seeing them rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself his face toward the ground. We see the same thing happening with Abraham in the previous chapter. And these two men in verses chapter 18, verses 22, we see, and the men turned their faces from thence and went towards Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. These are the two that had dined with Abraham a few hours ago. And now when Lot was at the gate, and when he saw them, he bowed his face to the ground. We see that by a righteous man, these people had some spiritual intelligence. And since Lot was a close person to Abraham, he knew his ways, he understood God, he knew the secrets of God, and therefore I believe in his spiritual realm he saw that these men were different. These were the servants of God. And he said, behold, now my Lord, turn in, I pray, unto your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and you shall rise up early to go on your ways. And they said, nay, but we abide in the streets all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned into him and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house around, both old, young, and all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out of the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, I have two daughters which have not known man. Let them, I pray, bring them out unto you, and you do to them as good as in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, and therefore came under the shadow of my roof. We see that, first of all, Lot had this courtesy because he understood hospitality. He was kind to strangers, and therefore in doing that he entertained angels. This is what scripture is all about. It's talking about that we should be kind to one another. But we see that the nation of the people of Sodom, they were so evil. They came to Lot and said, bring those men that you may know them. And Lot said, no, I can give you my daughters. They are virgins, they have not known any man. You can do to them as you please. But these people, they were so wicked. Let us continue and see what happened. And they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came into sojourn, and he will need to be judged. And now we will deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon them, and evil Lord came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hands and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, that they worried themselves to find the door. They were struck with blindness, that no one could find or seek the door. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou anyone besides son-in-law, and thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city? Bring them out of this place, for we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has set us to destroy it. And the Lot went out and spoke unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughter, and said, up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. And when morning arose, the angels hastened Lot, saying, arise, take thy wife and thy two daughters which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. Lot tried to warn his sons-in-law, but at the end of the day, it seems like a mockery unto them, because first of all, being the culture of that place was so sinful, and therefore they saw it as a joke. But Lot understood what God meant, and therefore he had taken this matter very, very serious. So the angels of the Lord told him to hasten up and pack his things and go. Sometimes a believer, sometimes a man of God or a woman or any servant may come and bring warning unto a person's life, but us being ignorant because we think we know better, because we think we understand more, because we think that we have the capability of contemplating things better than them, therefore we ignore the warnings of God. And what does this bring? This brings about consequences of which one must suffer. But let us continue. You see here that now Lot is being told to take his 2 daughters and wife and leave. And while he lingered, the man laid upon his hand and upon the hand of his wife and upon the hand of his 2 daughters. And the Lord being merciful unto him, they brought him forth and set him out. They set him without the city. And it came to pass when they had brought them forth abroad that he said, Escape for thy life. Look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my Lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me, and I die. Behold, now this city is near to flee unto, and this is a little one. Oh, let me escape there. It is not a little one, and my soul shall live. And he said, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing. Also, I will not overthrow this city for that which thou hast spoken. Lest thee escape hither, I cannot do anything till thou become thither. Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar. And the sun was rising upon the earth, and the Lord entered Zoar, and the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire, and the Lord from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew these cities, and all the plain, and all the empire of the cities that grew up upon the ground. We see now God is trying to preserve the life of Lot. He helps him out because at the end of the day, God, He is our strong and our buckler. He will provide safety. He is our strong shield. Therefore, as He puts Lot out, and Lot says that my own human capacity, I cannot outrun there unto the mountains. But now I will run to this city called Zoar. And because of that, because of one man's voice, because of one man's negotiation and grace, God said, okay, go, but I will not destroy that city. Therefore, sometimes it comes to a point where one should not ignore a man of God or a servant of God, because the prayer that he makes have power and impact in the spiritual realm, and therefore God honors them. Because when a righteous man prays for a city, God will look over it and say that, please God, don't destroy the city. God will hearken unto it. But that is not the same with the wicked, because God is always pissed off with the wicked and is always angry with the wicked. So because of this, God said, okay, I will not destroy that city. Just go, ensure that you go unto safety. But He said, don't look back. Those were the specific, very specific instruction. In 26, but his wife looked back from behind and became a pillar of salt. That's the consequences of disobedience. Even to those of us who are believers, sometimes God will say, don't do this. And because we think we know better, we do it. And that's the consequence. She became a pillar of salt. And I heard that thing is in Israel. And once in a while, they say the salt usually just grows. So let's continue. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord. And he looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain. Behold, and lo, smoke of the country went up, the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, which He overthrew the cities which Lot dwelt. And Lot went up of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. Now we see that God favored, and He had saved Lot because mostly of Abraham, and because also Lot was kind. Sometimes kindness can take you to a level where something else cannot, or where your qualities cannot. And you see now, because Lot was scared to dwell in that city, because he understood the nature of the people, Sometimes they were hostile. So he went and dwelt in a cave with his 2 daughters. And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to continue us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the seed of our father. And they made their father drunk wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, or when she rose. And when it comes to pass on the morrow, the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also. Go thou in and lie with him, that he may preserve the seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus were both the daughters of the Lord with child by their father. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the younger also bare him a son, called his name Ben-Amin. The same the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. Now we see here, unfortunately, incest happened, and Lot became drunk. First, we see the consequences of wine. We see that wine made Noah curse his son. Now we see that here again, Lot commits this sin, this treacherous sin with his daughters, and therefore they became the father of the Ammon and the Moabites. And this thing becomes a curse because of this thing. It is a curse by all nature and by all means, and therefore we are going to say that for a time in the future, our chapters are going to say that they were banished from the face of God for almost, I think, 500 years because of this sin and curse which they did their father. Therefore, what we learn from this chapter is that kindness will always take you to a different level. Hospitality which can always save you, because you don't know whom you entertain. And above all, we've seen from the previous chapter that when God looks down for the righteous, that he may save him from the same lot with the wicked. And we see that Lot was preserved, and his life was cherished because, one, God loved him. God took him to a different place, and we see the cities of the plains were all destroyed because of their sins, and these sins we are seeing them today in this lifestyle. The same Jesus said that as these were the days of Noah, as it were in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah, so shall be the days of the coming of the Son of Man. And this day we see a lot of sexual perverseness in everything, in mainstream media. We see that the society is crumbling. We see the rise of the LGBTQ. We see these are the things that are rising up, and therefore we need to seek the face of God more and more. People have now their free choice to do what they want to do, but at the end of the day, let's know that every action has a consequence. And therefore, in this, we see that the rise of the Moabites and Ammonites is a curse before the face of God, and these people are going to be so much into the scripture, are going to be the people that God hates, and because of the curse, this curse that they did. But above all, we see that when you are close to God, it brings that intervention, it brings his power, it brings his revelation, it brings his mercy upon his children. So what I would like to encourage you that this particular time, that be kind. You never know whom you entertain. And God bless you. Till next time, shalom.